YouTube fans, this is Matt of Post April 6th YouTube channel. Yep, today is Thanksgiving Day, and I am watching Dragnet 1987 with Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks and Harry Morgan playing Chief of Detectives or somebody higher up in authority of LAPD. He's not just a detective that is with a partner with Joe Friday, who was Sergeant Joe Friday. And this movie is pretty good, and I cannot put up all of it because I just put up that little scene because I've seen that scene with the sound on being played on YouTube before. I know if I play anything else, I'm at risk of YouTube deleting the video and giving me a serious warning. Can't have that going on. Can't have that going on. Well, as of right of this minute, which is 4:05 p.m. Mountain Time, I am waiting for my order to be delivered by Uber Eats. And first it was going to be turkey with broccoli and mashed potatoes, and then we're out of turkey. And the manager or the supervisor called me, or the lead or the head cook, whoever it was with Village Inn, called me and asked me if I wanted to do pot roast. And I said, yeah, I'll go ahead and do pot roast. And then she called me back a few minutes later yet again. And she said they're out of pot roast. And I said, okay, go ahead and do the chicken fried gravy with, or chicken fried steak with gravy on it. So, you know, hey, at least I'm alive and I get to enjoy Thanksgiving. Now, I know a lot of you YouTube subscribers know chapter and verse about how bad I was hurt on April 6, 2011, and I had a parietal skull fracture. You can see it. It's right here. That's a skull fracture crack. And I was hospitalized for 11 weeks. I was hurt so terribly bad. And I had brain surgery 3 times. I was drilled back here, and then I had a cerebral hemorrhage. I don't know how long it was after they did the first, what's called intracranial incision with the drill. But somewhere between 5 to 6 hours to 24, to a little more than 24 hours, I actually had a cerebral brain hemorrhage. And then emergency surgery was performed onto me after the hemorrhage. And I remained comatose for at least 2 more weeks after that, or 1 3/4 weeks, meaning a week and 5 to 6 more days minimum, or an additional 2.5 weeks, whichever it was. And after I wake up out of an induced coma, I was hospitalized for at least 8 to 9 more weeks until I got released on June 24th, 2011, somewhere between 11:30 and 12:30 p.m. And my dad came to pick me up, and he signed the documents he was supposed to sign because that was a mandatory requirement on his end, and I signed where I was supposed to sign, which was a mandatory requirement they're expecting from me on my end. And then he drove me, and I kid you not, 115 miles back to his house after we stopped off at a place that was about 2 to 3 blocks away. It was Kokoro, and we had some good Asian food, and it tasted really good. And the other thing that I was able to do was I was able to pet this cute cat named Penguin. Yep. She was a wonderful, lovable cat. Yeah, I had her from June 20th, 2009, which was the day that I signed the papers and I paid the adoption fee to take her home. And then before that, I made a agreement with the apartment complex I was living at, which was owned by different ownership at the time. Before I came back in 2016, it was owned by Asher Investments 3 LLP, and the name of the apartment complex back then, because it's changed since the company that owned it has changed, and the actual name of the apartment has changed. Back then, in July of 2009. Or no, not July. June 20th, 2009. It was called the Glen Apartments. And I put forth at least $150 to $175 deposit so that I could let the cat move in with me. Oh, excuse me. Good Lord. And now I am waiting on a chicken fried steak and mashed potatoes and broccoli. And it's going to be delivered to me by a good man named Pedro, who's with Uber Eats Delivery. So, stay tuned. It's going to get really interesting. I better sign off for now, but I'm going to come back so I can totally complete this vlog and make everything great. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. But there's going to be more. There it is. There's the Thanksgiving meal. Even though there's no turkey, so what? And there's the cup of coffee. Yep. Gloria Jean's butter toffee or butterscotch, something like that. That I got at Walmart. Okay, I have finished the chicken fried steak with gravy on it and the slices of Texas toast. I want a cornbread, but I'm not gonna raise a fuss with them. They took care of me. They didn't charge me extra for making the adjustments to the menu. So I'm going to keep eating and stay tuned. There will be more.
You might be worried about the friends you lose.
And we get to see you on the evening news.
It's a new sensation.
We go down to the station.
You're gonna answer some questions.
And have some refreshments.
What is your full name?
Well, excuse me. Excuse me. Don't use the beautiful refuse me. It's no joke. I'm broke. About right I can and will it go. I'm homeless. And I'm lonely. But the street cannot disown me. It ain't funny. I might walk right in.
Well, the movie's over, and I finished my meal, and it was quite delicious. I really enjoyed it. And now I'm going to celebrate Thanksgiving. Yeah. And now I'm sitting on my favorite spot where I like to do my YouTube vlog. And right over here is the kitty. Hi, Isabella, you're taking a nap. Look at you. Yeah. Something about the turkey you must have snuck into. The little bits of turkey meat you must have got into it. That's why you're so sleepy. Yep, now I'm back. And yeah, I did a sales report for all the things I sold on eBay, and whew, yeah, I shelled out. Well, it was taken out of my funds. It wasn't taken right out of my pocket, but I shelled out probably at least $20 worth of postage this week. Yeah, and I got a guy who's interested in buying that miserable piece of junk that I should have never bought in the first place, which is the Nokia G310 5K, or no, 5G smartphone. Boy, I'll be glad to sell that one, because I've already gotten some inquiries about it from a potential buyer, and maybe he's still mulling it over and deciding whether he's going to buy it or not, or whatever. But, you know, hey, tomorrow's back for Black Friday. What is the matter with me? Black Friday, and I bet you I'll sell at least one item. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the record player and with FM radio, and it's going to be records only, and I'm going to start playing back the records that I bought in a 10-pack, grab bag 10-pack at Twist and Shout Records. And I tell you, Twist and Shout Records, it's going to be very, 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 very busy, I bet you, because everybody and their brother is going to be out shopping tomorrow, and the traffic and the streets are going to have tons of traffic, and the highways, the highways are going to be congested from no end to no end, from 6 o'clock in the morning until about 8 o'clock at night, or even longer than that. Oh yeah, I bet I-225 and I-25 and I-70 and C-470, quite busy, quite busy. There is an image of me sucking on an all-day sucker. Look at them. Look at them 70s wild plaid pants that are kind of loud. And here is a photograph of me. This is either Thanksgiving of 1976 or 1977. Look at how wild curly hair I have. And I'm playing with a little kid's toy. Oh yeah, I'm really getting into it. And that house was built in about 1957, 1958, and it's on Prentice Street in the original part of the older part of Littleton. It's near Santa Fe Drive. And my grandfather, he got a contracting permit and all of the licensing you need to have to build a house to begin with. I think it's called like a general contractor's permit or license. And he had he did a lot of the construction himself. Yes. You know, when he had the time. Oh yeah. And my grandfather, on a certain date in October of 1978, I think it was approximately October 23rd. Yeah, my grandfather was a very heavy drinker. He was an alcoholic, unfortunately. And shortly after he turned 70, he died. Yeah, he died of what was either called a massive heart attack or a DT seizure from alcohol abuse. And let me try to see if I can find some other interesting photographs. Okay, here's a photograph of me in a playpen. And in that photograph, I'm probably about 12 to 15 months old. Actually, you know, after I really think about it, I was probably more like 15 to 18 months old. And there I was in my playpen, with all kinds of toys and stuff to play with, and that phone was a kid's toy phone. Oh goodness, the thing, tripod got in the way again. Yeah, and I was wearing a red shirt that was really a favorite of mine. Yep. That was at a house that I lived at, that my father got in 1970, and it was located on West Santa Anita Drive in Inglewood, Colorado. Yep. And in fact, here, let me think about this for real quick, and then I'll give you an answer about the number of many zip codes I lived in throughout my entire life. Okay, I carefully calculated this, and between 1973 and the present day, I have lived at 12 different zip codes. It started with 80111, 80104, Castle Rock, 80124, because see, this is a zip code, it was Littleton when I was living there, but now it's Lone Tree, Colorado, because that part of Littleton and Lone Tree were like about that far apart. They were only about 8-9 blocks apart from each other. They were that close. I mean, not inch-wise that close, but figuratively that close. More like about that close. You know what I mean? And then I lived in zip code 80122, which was on Arapahoe and Holly, and that's where I lived with my mother, because she got approved for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house at what was then called Arapahoe Village Apartments, and then it changed to Sterling Point, I think it was, and then it changed names again to what it is now, Villas at Holly. And then I lived with my father. I can't say the street name, but I'll say this much. It's in the Expo Park neighborhood, and it's near Havana and Kentucky. And it's right almost in the middle between Havana and Kentucky and Havana and Peoria. They're only about, Havana and Kentucky and Havana and Peoria are only about that far apart. Okay, so anyways, in fact, let me think about this for a second. Yeah. Havana, South Havana, and Peoria are only 15 blocks apart. And then after that, it was zip code 80011. And let me say this again before in case I had a slippage of the tongue. 80012 was Aurora Expo Park neighborhood near Havana, Kentucky, and then we moved to 80011, which is Hoffman Heights neighborhood. And the street names, I better not say it. I can tell you this much though. It was close to East 11th Avenue and Racine, and Aurora Public Schools High School. But I don't remember the name of the high school. I don't. It wasn't Hinckley. It was another good Aurora school. And then I moved to, and now the zip code's gonna, for a lot of people who are buffs about the Cherry Creek neighborhood or the Hoffman the Capitol Heights neighborhood of Denver, it's going to click. But the neighborhood I went in it was actually Congress Park, and it is this zip code 80206. Again, 80206. And I lived at that exact address on 13th and Columbine for 9 years. From late March of 1995 until August 2nd, 2004. That's 9 years. Oh yeah. And then I moved across the street from Tamarack Square, what's now Tamarack Square Shopping Center, but back then it was Tamarack Square Mall and Shopping Center Annex. Because the Annex part is left, and it's just Tamarack Square Shopping Center. Because there's a Super Target there now, instead of the indoor mall that was there before, which is called Tamarack Square Mall. Okay, so I lived across the street at 3300 Tamarack, and then I was only there for 15 months, and I needed a better deal, because that was when the cost of utilities, phones, and groceries was going up. Rent went up a little bit, but not a whole lot. And I moved to where I was at 2 different tenures in life. The first time was the Glen Apartments. I know I've talked about this earlier in the early part of this vlog. And I lived there from Halloween night of 2005 until the day I got hit. April 6th, 2011. Yep. I was immediately rushed to Denver Health Medical Center. And that zip code, even though I didn't live there, I was just a patient confined inside a hospital. I wasn't an actual resident, which, there's a difference between the two. I think that was 80203 or 80204 or 80205. It's one of those 3 zip codes. And then I moved to Pueblo. And no, I'm not even going to tell you what the neighborhood is, but I'll tell you this much. It is 1 mile away from the Pueblo State Fairgrounds. Yeah, the state where they have the annual state fair around Labor Day weekend, or near Labor Day weekend. And the zip code was 81005. And I lived with him for 5.5 months until I got the financial settlement. And then I moved to Evans in Quebec. And I not only had Penguin the cat with me, I also got this second cat. And I named her Milkshake. She's really a cute cat. Isabella is still very cute, but the personality of Isabella is better, I think. Okay, so I lived there for 392 days, just a tiny touch more than 12 months. And then things had collapsed so badly for me financially, I made an agreement with my father to go move back with him. And when we originally made the agreement, he was only going to let me live there for a year. But then after about 10 months, my dad really had a change of heart, and he really felt bad for me, and he lifted the restriction. He and I had he has a special word I'm not allowed to discuss, but I'll say this much. It was an important father and son discussion agreement meeting, and he said that he would lift the restriction, but he says, and you can live here as long as you like, but know this: once you move on your own, that's it. I can't take you back. So, I lived at that zip code 81005 for 1,306 days. Yep. And prior to that, I spent, about 13 months saving up $400 a month. And in February 2016, my dad called me out to have a important discussion on a Saturday, because a Saturday back then was a day that I didn't have to do my volunteer work, because the Sleep Disorder Center EEG lab at St. Mary's Corwin was closed, and if it was open for special circumstances, they didn't need me, because they were only going to be open for a little bit. And the other thing was there was a infrastructure requirement that they only wanted people to do 25 hours worth of volunteer work. Anything more than that was a no-no. And it's understandable why they would have those rules. So anyways, on the father and son discussion in February 2016, he stated that he was going to open a joint account with Scottrade. Scottrade is now TD Ameritrade, and TD Ameritrade, I think, might be part of Fidelity Investments, because Scottrade changed hands three times. And then what happened is between February of 2016 to, I think it would be early August, or at the latest the first week of August of 2016, when everything was a done deal for me to move back to the Glen Apartments. And it was all the way confirmed. I got a check. I really shouldn't say this, but I'm going to go ahead and take a risk here and say it. And instead, the $5,500 I was using to save up money, actually $5,400 and change. The earnings were $554, I think it was. That gave me that. Then I got a payout check, because I wanted to cash everything out, of $6,104 and change. Yes. And that gave me the big bucks I needed to put down a huge deposit with Asher Investments 3 LLP and Property Investment Company, because that was a very strict mandatory requirement if they were going to take me back, because everybody else was just going, playing head games with me and promising me the moon and the stars. And then when I wanted to know more about applying, they set all these strict guidelines of how much money I had to make. I'm like, whatever. And the Glen Apartments said, you can come back, but this is how it's got to be. If this is how much money you got to give us. And it was, I'm really not supposed to say this either, but I'm going to go ahead and say this too. It was a money order for a little more than, it was about $3,400 approximately. Yeah. And I made sure to proceed to draft a cashier's check of the exact amount, because I called them before I went inside the bank to make sure I get everything to a penny that I needed to. And then I bought a cashier's check for $3,400 and change, plus the service charge for the money order, or not money order, cashier's check. And then I took the cashier's check with me and I put it in my pocket, and I'm really looking over my shoulders because, you know, Pueblo can have some very bad dudes around, and I was making sure to just really keep my eyes peeled for the ones that I thought were gonna rip me off, because if need be, if I had to, you know, if I felt one of them getting close to me, I was going to start to run and get away from them, so they wouldn't have the opportunity to jump me. And I got back to my apartment, and I continued to do some more packing, and then I went out at about 10 o'clock for a smoke break, because, you know, my dad's is a fair man, but he don't like it, and even his own wife could, before she quit smoking, she smoked outside. You know, my stepmother. And I made sure to just walk around the streets, puffing away on my pipe, and just getting, you know, having my own way of unwinding, getting my little nicotine fix. And then I come back and say goodnight to everybody before I go downstairs. And I continue to do more packing until everything's packed up. And then I got my jammies, and I lay down in my bed, and I put my CPAP over my face and go to sleep. And the next day, a guy with a Ford F-150, he was a good young college kid who was the son of a senior pastor of Avenue Baptist Church. And I helped him load everything up, and then after I said my proper goodbyes to Dad and let him say his word of advice, and then I went and gave a kiss and hug to my stepmother, and then we drove. I was along. Well, I didn't do the driving. He did the driving. We drove, or he drove all the way, and I made sure to just constantly look in the mirror to make sure nothing was flying off of the truck, and people weren't getting too close to us. You know, it was pleasant, and it kind of felt relaxing, but at the same time I had a lot to watch out for. Okay, so I was at the Glen for 4 years, 4 months, and 60 days before that I made an offer on a house in Huntington, West Virginia. And the zip code there is 25701. Because I don't want the house to get burglarized, I'm not going to say the name of the street, but I'll say this much. It is close to Enslow Park Boulevard and Hal Greer Boulevard. Because Hal Greer is a street that would be close to where I lived, and believe me, that street is high traffic. I mean, there'd be times when I would wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'd hear some really loud rumbling car that's all going because the motor's about shot. And then I went to move to where I am now. All I'm willing to say is it's 80237. Same zip code as my P.O. Box address. That's all I'm going to say. And that is, let me do some counting again to make sure everything's right. Yes, I counted this again to be exactly sure. And as it turns out, I was right. 12 different zip codes. Yep. Now here is one other piece of information about one particular zip code, because it wasn't just one address and one address only. It was It was 4 different addresses. Yep. It was one location at on South Tamarack Drive. It was another location on East Girard. And then it was a second apartment at the same part of East Girard. And then there was a, April 6th, 2011, hold on a second. And then after a 5-year and 4-month absence from what was then the Glen Apartments, and then 4 months after I moved back there for the second tenure of living at this address, and it changed to Gramercy Apartment Homes instead of the Glen. I lived at a fourth. Wait a minute. No, a third apartment unit at the same address on East Girard. And the second apartment unit and the third apartment unit, they're both studios. And they're both the exact same square footage. But they were not in the same building. Because you see, it was an apartment complex where there was 13 different apartment buildings. You know, building 1, building 2, building 3, building 4, building 5, building 6, building 7, building 8, building 9, building 10, building 11, building 12, building 13, or and when I moved to West Virginia, I had my own house, 1,239 square feet. But my house got flooded. The amount of repair work I had to have done after I vacated the house and gave duplicate copies to the guy who did the floors and another duplicate copy who did a lot of different stuff. I mean, he did more than just, you know, fix a little of this, fix a little of that, clean up a little of this, clean up a little of that. No, he did a hell of a lot of work in there, him and his mother, who's in her late 80s. He replaced the, he did some rewiring at or near the junction box and the crawl space. He cleaned out the crawl space in the basement. He put up drywall in the one-car garage. He rewired the GFI terminal that is the electricity that would power the washer and the dryer, because they're going to be two different voltages. They're going to be 120 volts, and then another one that would be at least 220 or 240 volts to run the dryer. And he cleaned up the floor, but good. And I think he might have spackled, you know, concrete spackling, some cracks. He painted every single wall with white Sherwin-Williams paint. That part of it in itself set me back $2,000 out of the over $17,000 that I spent. He put rails in the staircase in the because there's two flights of stairs. One goes to the second bedroom. The third one, the second flight of stairs goes to the third bedroom. It goes like this, and then like this. Right, you know that the one that goes like that. It goes up to a humongous bedroom. The square footage of that bedroom alone was at least, and I kid you not, 290 square feet. It was huge. It was huge. I mean, the studio apartment that I have is 425 square feet. So it was half the size of this apartment for sure. I mean, it was huge. And it had two coat closets, and it had built-in chest of drawers that were like 4 or 5 different drawers. They're only about that wide and about this tall, and the circumference of the drawer was, well, roughly about like that. And there was 2 different windows. One went to the to the rooftop that went over to the garage, and the other one I could see from a side view what the outside of the house looked like. I mean, you know, that's common in houses. I've been to so many different houses. It's not uncommon for houses to be like that. You know, when you're on the upper level of a 2 to 3 story house. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, the bathroom, because he had to cut a draft hole chute through the ceiling, and then install the electric motor for the bathroom fan. And I'll go ahead and use this term, even though it sounds a little bit vulgar. It's also called a fart fan. You know, because somebody who's really pinched a loaf, they need to turn that on so they can get rid of the stinkiness. Or pass a lot of gas while they're doing you know what. Or relieve themselves. And let's see what else happened. He patched a lot of spackling. I think he did some recaulking around the bathtub. And I think he might have replaced a switch, a light switch or 2. Oh, and here's the other thing he did. And I had to pay for this 50-gallon water heater. It was at least 500, and it was over 500. It was somewhere between 550 and 593 with sales tax at Lowe's. And he installed a new hot water heater because the one that was there before, it worked, but it was manufactured in the year 2000 and it was too old. And after that all got done, and the lawn got trimmed, and a weed or 2 got pulled, you know, something for the landscaping outside. The house was up to code, and I was able, and Huntington Housing Authority got a tenant in there. And it's just too bad that she did what she did to herself. Yeah, because if she wasn't using drugs, which I have a hunch she did, but I could never prove it, she did have a drug problem for a while, and then she overcame it. And then when she couldn't work, she developed some serious psychological problems. And she, on March 10th, 2024, it was in the afternoon. It was somewhere between 2 and 4:30 p.m. She passed away from a cardiac arrest, and she was only 32 years old, and the mother of 5 kids. I really feel bad for the kids, because I bet for them, that really, really makes them feel sad, and that really bites. That really, really bites. And I cannot talk about how much the house sold for, because I'm, you know, with the legal agreement I made with Rocket Mortgage, I'm probably under a gag order. Can't talk about it, so I won't. But I can say this much. Tomorrow, I'm going to have the the closing deal agreement. I have to sign some things before they formally draft the cash to close agreement and officially sell the house to the lady who's going to buy it. Now, who that lady is, I can't say, and I better not, because I don't want her to be propositioned left and right, and I don't want her to be a victim of identity fraud. But she is a lady who's, got fairly deep pockets, and she's going to buy that house in cash, and she's going to go and as soon as she officially takes possession of the house, she's going to get a huge dumpster. I mean, we're not talking this big, we're talking even bigger than this. Yes, even bigger than this. This is a scale demonstration. Even bigger than this. And it's probably goes up to here. I'm 5'9". It probably go at least up to here, or up to here. And they're going to get all the junk out of there, because that lady was quite a hoarder of all kinds of stuff. And they're going to get that place all emptied out, and they're going to do cleaning after cleaning after cleaning after cleaning after cleaning, and repair after repair after repair after repair, and change a little bit of this and change a little bit of that, and get rid of this and put in that. All kinds of stuff. And then they're going to sell it. And I bet you they'll make at least a $35,000 profit. The only drawback is, even though the area is good, it's not the safest of it's not the most safe area, but it's definitely one of the safer areas of Huntington, West Virginia. There is one geographical drawback. They are less than 100 feet away from Four Pole Creek. They're in a flood zone. Because see, I had flood insurance on my house, and whoever the buyer is, they have to have flood insurance too. And I think that would also pertain to her as well, the property investment buyer. Well, I've done quite a bit of talking. I hope all of you found this pretty interesting. Thank you very much, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving and goodbye. And I hope you guys all have a Merry Christmas, and I hope 2025 is a happy one. Goodbye now.